Okay. I walked into the what do you call it? I walked into the studio. Hey, all right. And probably got to get out the studio. I think probably better get right now. Yeah, there you go. You can move that one out the way. Hey family, go ahead on the tag share. We are about to be live. We are live. We're about to be on the air in a few minutes. So I want you to go ahead on the tag share. And we are excited about our exclusive, the conscious chick. Get ready to have an exclusive.
Thanks, Shakayla.
Okay, so we do it. Sean Williams, how are you? Want to say good afternoon to Nellie Hayes. She's celebrating a birthday. She is watching live. Want to say good afternoon to Stephanie Gaines. Go ahead on tag share.
Happy birthday, Stephanie.
Nellie.
Oh, excuse me. I thought you said Stephanie.
No, Stephanie.
My ear that came. Oh, hey, Stephanie.
Stephanie is watching. Nellie is celebrating. Okay. Hey, go ahead on the tag share. Listen, we got an exciting show today. We're talking with one of the longest elected vocal officials in the city and county of Tallahassee, none other than the quarterback from Fairview High, Mr. Bill Proctor. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Hubba. I appreciate y'all having me. And the most vocal. What is that? What was that introduction? Thank y'all for having me.
Want to say good afternoon and once again welcome to the Greg James Community Show on this wonderful Wednesday. And certainly I'm here with none other than the conscious chick herself, Christy Henry. How are you?
Conscious.
Real conscious. Real conscious. And
I just woke.
You not just woke, but conscious.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yes, sir.
Listen, I'm telling you, it is so exciting to be here. I mean, last week, we dealt with the hurricane.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
certainly want to thank God for all of you who were praying. And certainly I want you to continue to pray because there are some cities and families, communities that are really devastated.
That's right. We want to keep Madison in our prayers. We want to keep Perry in our prayers and all those Greensboro, all those counties. South of is that south of us? Is that south?
That is.
Okay, I want to make sure I get my directions right. But it was something for that hurricane to go to those communities that are already struggling, with issues of poverty, issues of resource. And now they have a whole fleet of folks going in. Every day we go by there's trucks going in from all over. And Tallahassee is playing host to many of those entities and organizations here because we have the infrastructure, we have the housing, we have, the capability to host them. So we definitely want to thank God for our federal government response, for all of our levels of government response. And we want to give a special shout out to the city of Tallahassee, to the Leon County, and all the response things that they put out there, from the sandbags to the utilities being cut on in an expedited fashion, and definitely to those residents that were still cutting tree limbs out their yard to recover from the storm. So, but if you still need help, if you still have issues, if you need help, reach out. You're not alone. There's still resources out there to get you fully recovered and fully restored.
I want to say something about that. Ain't no doubt that storm called Idalia was a registered Democrat. That storm.
Wait. Did you say a registered Democrat?
Before it came across the Atlantic and got down to Key West, they had to do a voter registration. And it registered as a Democrat, came around and acted like it was going to help Tallahassee, Quincy, Blue County, and it curved and went back down south and landed there on Cedar Key, full blast. Steenhatchee, Perry, Taylor County, that red area, that Trump area. And it gerrymandered a path that carved out all blue counties, saved the day, and went up Madison County, went on up to Lowndes County, Dixie County, all up in there, that red. That was a registered Democratic storm. And just look at it. It involved a bunch of Jefferson blue, Leon blue, Gaston blue, and that's what I saw, politically speaking.
Well, I mean, one thing about you got two hats on. You got on the pastoral hat that gives insight and revelation to things that take place in the natural realm. Then you got on the political hat that gives place to things that take place in the political realm. So we're gonna give you A+ on that revelation today. Amen. So really, truly, I mean, it's been a blessing, and there have been so many families. There have been so much unity that has come forth, and certainly one of the things that I was doing research on was the fact that in New Orleans, when the hurricane hit there, the gun violence decreased.
Yes.
So I was saying, God, I'm praying that it don't hit, but I'm definitely wanting to see a decrease in gun violence here in our city. So it's been an amazing time, and we're back on the air. And what a great way to kick off September with our guests today.
Yes, sir.
A voice that has been vocal, and what I like about our guest today is that he has a way of giving his own insight into issues, and he really does not care whether your insight and information is different from his.
Well, I think that's how it's supposed to happen on the political front. I think the problem here is that we are in a society where people think you always supposed to agree. And you don't. You have differing views that are shaped by environmentalism, they're shaped by rearing, they're shaped by history. And people have got to make accommodation at the end of the day for different views. Now, when your views cause harm to others, when your views economically supplant others, then you got to be dealt with. But there's even a system that works from there. And we know that Commissioner Bill Proctor, who has been the longest serving in District 1 on the Leon County Commission.
And I tell you that my views must be accurate, my view, because my view has kept me there. And the other views, I'm not trying to subvert, take away January 6th, nobody. My view is to get some of the money. My view is to get some resources. My view is that all of y'all shouldn't get some and all of ours don't get none. It's been very simple. So I don't know if anything I've done that was trying to hurt nobody, take away. I'm just trying to get our fair share.
So let me ask you, with that in mind, you have been a primary, I go back into history, I tell my age, I know I look good. You have been active in the conversation about economic disparity in a very long time. This is not a newer conversation for you. You're active in trying to put together what was known as the Southside Action Plan. You work with urban regional planning to come up with some grassroots ideas to address the economic gaps, even as far back as the late 90s, early 2000s. You have been one that have championed as well as responded to the community on the Harvard study on economic polarity here within Tallahassee Southside and other indicated communities. Talk a little bit about why we can't seem to close the disparity gap in our communities.
Two things. Number one, mindset.
Wow.
Mindset. And a lot of Black people come into a mindset that we want some pie in the sky when we die. My theology is I want some ham where I am. And we need ham where we am. And we'll get pie in the sky when we die.
Mm-hmm.
But don't skip ham where we am. And there has been this tendency, absence of hunger to get that parity and fair share-ness that I think we're owed. When you look at the Children's Services Council, which has proposed to lower the millage rate, that the Children's Services Council does not receive any money because property values have gone up. That ain't right. Why can't poor children get some money? The school board getting new money because property values going up. Counties getting new money because property values going up. State of Florida got $5 billion extra revenue they were looking for. They ain't give that back. They ain't FSU, FAMU, TCC getting more money. But the Children's Services Council is hostile against and has a philosophy that does not support, sustain poor children, though that's the mission. So these kinds of things are, that thing comes up for a vote next Thursday, whether or not they're going to approve a millage rate that decreases the intake and the amount of money they can take. So right now, I believe it's at 3.75. They're wanting to decrease the millage down to 3.444 so that it will keep the money that they're receiving equal status quo. The law is already set. They could go up to 5.0. But these folks sitting up there trying to deny my kids surplus dollars that can help them. When you look at the Healthy Study Coalition study that came out in 2023 January, and look at the gaps, all of them measured. Ain't been no closing the gap. So you don't turn the money off or turn it down till you don't fix the problem. Problem ain't fixed. Reverend James and I went out to monitor what occurred at the high school football game. He talked about guns. And we wanted to see the reaction of school board and authorities, how you handle a black crowd at the Soul Bowl between East Gaston and Rickards High School. And in that monitoring, to make sure that there was not heavy-handed overreaction, make sure there was not underreaction, but we were there to monitor, just to observe and look. But when enough children haven't been reached, and we're out there looking at a game with more police officers, the city of Tallahassee is going up on their taxes 10%, and they say it's justified to hire what? More police officers. In the meantime, Children's Services Council is decreasing funding. If you just let the status quo, they'll get a little bit more, but you're taking it down while the police are getting more. These police officers are prepared to meet those children at some point at the crossroad.
Let me stick a pin in that, because and Christy, I think this is so important, because one of the things that the Children's Service Council has been created for is to meet the needs and the welfare of the children in our community. So why would a program design, and there are needs, would you agree? I mean,
Absolutely.
there are needs. Not only are there needs, but there are people who are in our communities with programs trying to meet those needs that don't have the funding that they need to do what they're doing.
And see, Christy, I could jump in. The 3230 disparity studies that we were looking at, my 2019 32304 studies and summits, and the information that coughed up to show the poorest zip code in the state of Florida. How you gonna turn money down when you got the poorest zip code in the state of Florida? The Healthy Start, which I think you serve on, the data that they have, the studies that they're doing in progress, we've not closed no gaps. We've not fixed anything. The data from Leon County Health Department, the sheriff's report, which served to establish the Men and Boys Council, all of this data is saying need. We've not seen any study to confirm that the needle has been reversed and is going back toward the positive. That's why we ought to be up in arms with what Children Services Council ain't doing. And I'm watching them. I'm telling you, because they're coming for my children, not to help them, not to expand services that ought to be going there. All of the data is saying that
needs to be where investment should be.
They should be going up to the max 5.0 on taxes and not decreasing the millage rate down.
And you know, a lot of times I think, and this is just my humbly perspective, a lot of times I think that there are people who are serving on councils, on boards, who have no ideal, no inkling as to what the needs are of the communities that are really in these 32304 zones, these high crime areas. They have no understanding. So why would you invest more in law enforcement but less in children? That says something.
So I think I'm going back to what Commissioner Parker said at the onset of our conversation in terms of mindset. Right, because every action, every referendum is governed by mindset. Is that an appropriate thing to say?
Fair.
Okay, that's a fair thing to say. I believe that when we have a referendum that was passed overwhelmingly as the Children's Service Council, and I want to be transparent for a moment, I wasn't 100% on board with the Children's Service Council being, because I was afraid of stuff like this, right?
Wow.
I was afraid of the politicization of the needs of our children. I was afraid of that. But I have a lot of faith because I know Sika Rose Green. And I know her leadership and her heart is for the economic, social, and educational proliferation and attainment of our children. So when we go back to mindset, I think we have to understand, first of all, that this is a council that was established by referendum. It was voted on. It's not something the Leon County, commission made happen. It was something they allowed or they gave permission to be on the ballot, because that's the process, right? But the voters had to say, hey, we want to fund this. And you talked to people that wasn't for it. I'm sure they reached out. I talked to a lot of people who wasn't for it. But we can say right now that in terms of a referendum, and I will say this as Christy Henry, there is not an organization that is more authentically informed than the Children's Service Council. My issue is that they don't have enough money to do what they need to do. And that was the onset. It was never enough, right? So you tell me I'm gonna generate from the tax base $2 million to deal with chronic equity issues that have proliferated for 200 years in this community, right? You're gonna give me $2 million to deal with that, right? I approach it from a grassroots perspective. I approach it from a community engaged and informed perspective. And now you're fighting me.
Wow.
Don't want you to have that.
On what the community has stated that it needs. Right?
Now, I oppose the Children's Services Council. You know, I was on that side against the Children's Services Council, but I was against the Children's Services Council because I disagreed that 100% of its money come from Leon County taxpayers, but 5 of its 9 committee members were appointed by the governor of this state. I disagree that the governor of this state, who the state of Florida put in not 2 cents, not 1 penny in this funding, but they get to control it, and the governor puts 5 appointees on this 9-member board. That to me is why I opposed it. But once it was brought forward, it's what we are working with. The majority of the kids who qualify for assistance Title I schools is in District 1. These my kids. I own them. I ain't their biological daddy, okay? But they're little children.
Right. You know, there's a comment here, and this is good. There's a comment that says if you close the gap that interferes with the gross profit, then they get more prisons for incarceration.
I think there's a correlation. I mean, sociology, criminology has shown that the correlation between the absence of funding that goes to schools, communities, the divestment of monies in areas. The flip side of it is that more people are drawn and gone to school pipeline to jail.
So Christine, I mean, it's great that we're having a very transparent moment here. Commissioner Proctor shared that, hey, I was totally opposed. Why? You shared that you were totally opposed. And now we are all on board saying.
But we're saying the same thing. She said, I wasn't sure these people do right.
Right.
And I said that with the governor appointing 5 and controlling the membership, that's exactly the implication that I was saying. I didn't think the governor's appointees have children at heart.
And so now here we are with basically what you were feeling and what you were feeling. Because obviously the council sees that, hey, let's cut the funding, let's not invest more into the council, and let's decrease.
Now so let's make sure the audience is clear. Who is the proponent of the decreased funding? Is it coming from within the council?
Yes.
Okay, so within the council, they're proposing the reduction.
Paul Mitchell.
Okay, Paul Mitchell
is an officer or treasurer or something like that. He's the one that's pushing this, and the other members are, I guess, they're in the back seat of the car just sleep, and he's driving over the cliff.
Okay, and so Mr. Mitchell, who I want to make sure it's clear, Mr. Paul Mitchell, who is a member of the council. So he's doing this because he thinks they got enough money. Is that what the issue is? They have enough, so they need to decrease the they need to.
Well, let's just say allegedly, so that we'll make sure that we are.
I don't know, so I'm asking.
Well,
alleged.
To me, the research that was done to justify the basis of creating and placing on as referendum there was research done
Right.
that said there's a need. And the Children's Service Council has not come out and said, we have conquered the need.
Right.
The need. We can put this back to for the voters and say, let's cancel it because everything's solved.
Right.
So if it ain't solved and you have not justified why you're turning down the speaking when you really need to be opening up. for money,
Absolutely.
Somebody needs to be held accountable.
I think that if there is a council, I don't know all of the members on the council, but I think all of the members on the council should understand that the referendum was voted upon. It was voted upon that tax revenue maintain the services, not that the revenue from our taxes decrease the services, but let's maintain it. And therefore, as the years come, we all know everything is going up. There needs to be more money invested into the Children's Service Council to keep doing what it's doing. I think Sika is doing a great job. You made some very strong, remarkable points about her leadership, but you cannot continue lead when you're fighting with people who can't see the need that you're trying to fix.
I think you need to restate that, because I think that is a valid point. You can't lead to meet the need if you have to fight those that are supposed to be supporting the mission. And I think that's important, because again, we're in the streets, right? We hand to hand guerrilla combat in the streets. We can think of 9 projects right now that need funding, that serve and meet the needs of children and families in this community, right? We can think of an additional 9 to 10 that don't have enough, that are undercapitalized, right? And so I think, going back to what you both have said, who do we hold accountable, and what's the process of accountability to make sure we have this referendum in place? It's new. It's like a baby, right? It ain't even 3 years old yet, right? Is it 3 years old?
It's not.
It's like 3 years old. Have a seeming, because this is important as we talk about issues of manifest, violence in our community.
Right. And here's the thing. If funding is not placed there, then you make it appear that leadership failed. Then you make it appear that the Children's Service Council really wasn't wanted by a majority of the people, but you have handicapped the hand of the person who's at the top trying to move forward to meet these needs. So we've got to be able, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are listening to the broadcast, we got to be able to get involved. We got to be able to put our voices to people's ears who's on the council to say, our children matter. I mean,
I'm calling a press conference on this. And if the city of Tallahassee, and there's been no pushback on a 10% property increase to benefit the police, I'm calling for 11% increase to help vulnerable children.
I feel like it's important.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. But what's the cap?
5.
I love it. So you negotiate that, because it'll probably get to the cap.
I don't know. I'm not that good at doing math in public now. I don't know.
So let's ask this.
I don't do public math.
I asked you to do multiplication, but this is what I'm asking. If I had to throw out their number, and this would be something, because you hear these needs all the time. You call to these meetings. You've done the 32301s, 32304 studies. You populated data. You populated the economic needs of the organizations that you correlated and assembled for these meetings. The numbers are what, in terms of the need that they have thrown out there in order to capitalize these programs for optimum effectiveness?
I don't know what the exact number, but they're raising like 7 million, something between 7 and 8. The decrease would cause them, I believe, to lose something like 700,000 would be taken away, and we can't give $700,000.
No,
that's crazy. What is needed again? If the city commission got very little blowback on a 10% property increase, why is the Children's Services Council? I mean, nobody said we want the Children's Services millage rate rolled back. Did nobody even come to the county this year? We ain't got no. I mean, if we got 3 people to come and say, look, we want the millage rate rolled back, but the county kept the millage rate the same, because all properties have gone up roughly 7% this year. We get more money because Your house was 100,000 last year, this year's 107,000.
Amen.
So that pro rata share that goes to the public treasury went up a little bit by 7%.
Mhm.
But we didn't roll the millage rate back. We
Right.
kept that 7% and fix some other areas and try to address some other concerns.
That's right.
Why has the children got to give back theirs and be penalized and made punitive that the same property value for which their assessment is based, they got to give theirs back instead of taking the 7% and doing more increased things and doing more good?
Well, I think that what we've got to be able to do, and I think this is highly important for all of us, those of you who are listening, we're talking with long, effective voice and the personality of Commissioner Bill Proctor here with Conscious Chicken. Right now, we're just talking funding. We're talking Children's Services Council. We're talking about one of the biggest funding sources that should be made available to programs in our communities
Yes.
that are impacting children that we see when we look at our school system, when we look at the number of children who are being suspended from school, who are being embraced by the streets that eventually become part of a system. We talking about funding to make sure that programs are in place to give these children a way out of the street and a way to make a turnaround from entering into a system. When you look at 15-year-olds who are being charged direct foul, when you see the number of juveniles, I was in juvenile court with Judge Tiffany Baker the other day, and shouts out to her for taking so much time with those young
Yes.
individuals to explain to them. And even though we have our different agencies, the problem that bothers me is there are no program
Right.
for these children to be a part of that looks like them, that's in communities where they're coming from. The council can be major in ensuring that funding is there. And we've got council members who are saying,
Would
let's decrease
would
the
y'all
funding.
believe this if I told
Wow.
you that the city and county commissions operating as the blueprint board, which they do operate, approved at our last meeting, week before last, a $12 million park for Killarn neighborhood area, which the commissioner literally cried when he was not voted and supported from that area. And last week before last at the Blueprint Board, we voted for a $12 million baseball park, Little League Park, for be built in Killarn area. And there's not even an access road from the public to get to it. But children with all kinds of needs, from food issues to healthcare issues. I mean, everything in that health is stopped. Prenatal care, what's that word? When you die prematurely, what's that word?
Infant mortality.
Infant mortality. All that stuff is in the report. Look at the report that was used, the study came back to justify creating children's services. But they won't get but $7 million to serve all the poor children, including 32304, which the state itself, as governor, ought to say, I need some funding for 32304. I don't lift this thing up tall as I can, high as I can, much as I can. But our state representatives, our state senator, somebody need to look at 32304 that sits in the front door of Florida State University, the 19th or 18th ranked public institution in America, has that much wealth. I mean, why is Stadium Drive so wealthy, but Basin Street, which is separated by Tennessee, when you're on Basin Street, you're in a world of hurt and poverty. And when you cross Tennessee, you're then on Stadium Drive. And if you're a black male and can get to Stadium Drive and play on Saturdays, your life chances and probabilities of success increase, exponentially. The same street, Stadium Drive, head north, cross Tennessee, and you're on Basin Street, same road, different name, two different probabilities of outcome for success.
So with that being said, and going back to your analogy of 32304, which has been, talked to death,
Mhm.
All right, it has. And I heard another presentation, a good one from the Florida Chamber, which has taken up the zip code conversation, right? Your work appears to be bridging 32304 with other minority majority zip codes within the community to be able to implement and activate resourcing. Is the issue here that we don't see progress because we don't know what the plan of action is? Is there a way for us to see a plan? First of all, is there a plan of action? Is there a documented strategy, methods, implementation, outcomes document that the community can look, because this data doesn't change, it changes years, but it seems like it doesn't shift, right? Is there something that, first of all, has those denotations that the community can look at and it can be lifted up by the community, right? To hit these sort, because it seems like everybody wants to address it the way they want to address it, right? Even with the Children's Service Council, it seemed like there was this group of people that thought this is the answer. And Commissioner Proctor, is there just one answer?
No, and to your point, there is not a comprehensive plan called like the Marshall Plan, which rebuilt Europe after World War
Okay,
II.
okay.
Plan. We're gonna this, that,
Mhm,
roads,
mhm.
bridges, homes, jobs, factories. We're gonna rebuild it. There's not that. But I have to say that the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce has stepped in and went to Riley School, announced that they were going to do mentoring, they were going to do some after school, they were going to get children in with jobs and blah, blah. Other entities have stepped up and said what their little part was going to be and so forth. But again, let's go back to mindset. People within the communities themselves. If you're not looking up, I heard Reverend Jesse Jackson said, if your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, you can achieve it. But when your mind don't first base is conceiving. And I'm not sure we're stimulating. I'm not pleased, God. I'm not starting to fight here with the mayor. If I was the mayor of the city of Tallahassee, I would be doggone ashamed that the poorest zip code in my city I had the poorest zip code in Florida in my city. And I would channel all of I wouldn't want that. I try to change and fight for that different. And it hurts me that 32304 is in my district. And it always has to be a part of what I'm talking about because it's my district. It's part of my district. But I wish our mayor and our city, in terms of leadership, coming to create that comprehensive plan. That's needed. That was excellent.
And I think that, and my God, we got so many things that we're gonna try to travel the road down. And
I got ADD.
I think you see what you said was so important, and maybe we need to look at that. Maybe we need to really figure out how do we sit down, how do we get the mayor, how do we get commissioner, how do we get everybody to take a look? Because at the end of the day, when people live in an area so long until nothing changes, then guess what? They don't change. They become infested. I hate to use that word, but they become infested with what's going on around them. So they want to protect themselves. So they stay in, they do very little. I hate to say this, but one of the stores that was in our area, several of us, along with Rudy Ferguson, we all met to figure out how are we going to close this store down. That was our mandate after the shooting of the last guy who got killed in the store. Well, it's closed because the storm has completely destroyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You talking about the one where the guy got shot?
In Alabama Street.
Okay.
Yeah. So
praise God. God destroyed it.
Yeah. So here it is. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do it. We're meeting about it because it's a hangout. And it's a hangout that does not create what we need in the community. So because of the storm, now it's at a place where probably won't be restored.
But question mark.
Yeah.
Is it sometimes when a little storm comes from a business perspective, you can take this storm and take an exit and get paid, and we get your insurance company involved. Say, you know what, the storm got me out. Oh, I can't open it up. You know, I mean, it was the building tore up and all like that. I did 2 twigs fall and 3 leaves and
So what? I mean,
Tore up from
yeah,
floor.
for real. Yeah. A major tree fell straight down the middle of it on air tore. So here is a thing that we've got to do. We've got to look at what we've got to do as far as 32304. I think faith leaders, I think community leaders, I think advocates, I think all of us must come together and figure out how do we unite with a comprehensive plan to change neighborhood by neighborhood, street by street.
Well, can the 3 of us start as that committee that starts that next step? Because I don't know. And then COVID came.
And then
truthfully,
COVID came.
and the momentum of
Mhm.
it all collapsed.
Well, I'll say this, Commissioner.
Only y'all busy with everything.
No.
Voted?
Yeah.
No, it's
And I'll say
time.
this. I'll say this that many times when we're here doing shows and we bring in guests, there's always something birthed out of it that we're able to put our hands to the plow and say, hey, come on, let's get going. So if you coming on today has challenged the birthing of a comprehensive plan, what it looks like and how we need to bring people to the table, one of the things that I say in the Conscious Chicks as well, this is the platform that God has given us. And we are grateful that we don't have to be particular about what we say, how we say it. I just have to pray for the conscious chick not to cuss sometimes.
What?
Because sometimes that Peter thing will get on, you know. But we're grateful for this platform because this is what this show is all about. And so certainly get into consideration. Let's move on to another note, but we want to encourage everybody now about the Children's Service Council. What do you think they need to do before we go to something else that I want to talk about? What do you think they need to do?
Well, this year they need to let the status quo and let the millage rate remain the same.
Yes.
Millage rate needs to remain the same.
Don't go up.
Ask them to bump it up at least 10% to match what the city police. Because at some point, these children are going to meet the police. The city is amping up for the police to meet these children.
Mhm.
If we're not investing in these children are going to meet the police. So if the police side is getting more talent and drafting more folk, and then our community is getting less resources, what you think the end result going to be? I'm not that smart and that like that, but it seems like it's not going to be good.
So let me ask you something. With another 14,000 people tuning into us on today, how important is it for those individuals who are listening that's part of 32304 or even just concerned? How important is it for them to reach out to their commissioner, their elected officials to say, hey, speak to whoever you need to speak to, but we want to make sure that the Children's Service Council is not cut in funds, but if anything, funding is increased.
I think that you got to reach out to the Children's Services Council. They're posted on the internet. I think 4 of them are elected. The school superintendent, one of the school board.
So one of our school superintendents?
School superintendent's on the board, yeah.
So we need to let the school superintendent know that, hey, listen, he's the guardian of our children.
Jones, children, his district in mine, simple, Title I school children. He was not at the vote. Superintendent was not at the vote. It passed on 4-0 and moved forward to the next meeting. Carolyn Cummings, our vice chair of county government, is on there. And then the judge who does not vote, one of the judges, circular judge,
Anthony Miller. Anthony, Miller.
Miller?
Miller.
I think Miller's, so he's voted. So you got 4 elected people who, why do we have to call and beg them? The judge see who in the court.
Absolutely.
People staggered up in there. The vice chair of the county government, she know way 32304. The school board member, he got to know his schools and their performance level of absence and lack of performance. Why we got to beg up and holler at him? The school superintendent, he know he's over all the schools. Why do these 14,000 people listening today got to spend time over people ought to already be conscious about this, to know better about this? This is ridiculous that we got to go to people that high up and who give this pretense and this facade of talking above our heads, and they're so mindful and they're so thoughtful. And what they really are, they really is below our hearts and beneath our hearts because they don't care. And this is the kind of thing, excuse me, listeners, 14,000 people, but this is below the belt kind of butthole, hot air blowing stink rhetoric. That's what they're doing. This is butthole reaction, and they blowing out stink air, and that's what they're standing for, and they don't care.
Wow.
The commissioner says, thank you.
Stink ass.
Stink. I'm gonna stink all the time.
I know, right? Right. Okay, somebody said they ought to be already woke.
I agree. Why we got to work hard on them?
Okay.
It's a political process, right? So you got to go to the meeting. You got to make your face seen. You got to do the press conference. You got to do all the things, right? I know what we shouldn't have to do.
Just sounds good.
But
Play all in to appease a certain segment of this community who don't pay property taxes for these poor children. Why not do it? Then they'd rather give the money to the police after these children grow up a little bit and deal with them there.
Right.
But it looks good. It's political. Well, I voted against tax increase. I voted to roll back the military. You know, but the bottom line is that what you're fighting is my children.
well, I got a comment from a young man who says parents need to get involved along with the city and county commissioners who represent those zip codes.
I agree.
That's why I'm here today.
Amen. And certainly we are thankful that you are here and that you took time to carve out your schedule to help us start the month of September off with just giving an overview. And my God, we've spent a lot of time on Children's Services Council because that's the one thing, the one program that is helping to identify and meet needs with programs that are serving minorities in our communities. And there are so many of them. And you, me, and Talita was on the show last couple of weeks ago. And I think we're just outraged the fact that, you know, a lot of programs are not being funded. And there are so many people who are out here trying to get it done.
Well, I think it goes to your point about community funding. CSC is community funding. It is community-based funding. The referendum is specific in what it wants to address, the issues it wants to accomplish. And as Commissioner Proctor has stated very succinctly and even said the word stank, if it ain't done, then you can't. I mean, that's like draining your bathtub and you ain't finished washing your behind. I mean, you're not done. You're not finished.
That's a bad word.
Because if you ain't finished, you're going to be stank.
I mean, you're gonna be stank. It's gonna still be stank. It has washed, right? You got half washed. But
Okay.
you just gotta think about it in that term, because if you don't fund it, and you got the anatomy of homicide you got to deal with, you got all the things that point to a lack of upfront infrastructural human resource investment at a time in Catholic, and that's biblical. Train a child while there's hope. Yes.
Is it impacted by the fact that the executive director is a Black woman, progressive, and all the things you've said about her capabilities? You think that this is also a slap to undermine her leadership ability? Because she's not the first choice. The guy from Tennessee, Kentucky or somewhere was the first, but he backed out. And then Sika was the second person in line. Same thing happened with Nita Favors. They had gotten this guy from West Coast, and he stood in for about 6 months and quit. Then they done a nationwide search, and Nita Favors had come in second. Who says, "Is there a need to do another nationwide search?" And Bill Proctor said, "No, we just done one. Anita Favors should be the next person in line, and she's already at the city serving as number 2. Why can't she be number 1?" It's kind of a question like looking at Deion Sanders. He wanted to be a local coach. He couldn't get that opportunity. He went to Jackson State, and then went to Colorado. It's like sometimes we fight because of who is the executive director, and that's not the person we want to be the leader. I'm asking you, Christy, I heard this was kind of show that you could just kind of put things out there and say, at least you can use the word allegedly.
And the thing that is so real about what you're saying, I mean, we have to take a second look and make sure that we're not looking from distorted vision when we look, but the vision that we see is what we see. As Flip Wilson say, what you see is what you get. And could it be? I mean, sometimes we see our leadership that, you know, in an African American, well, male or female, and many times is it looks as though they're getting the support they need, but then again,
Because these people fighting the children as they fight Seeker.
that's the so
Well,
it's a CC fight. Is it
Right.
the children or the C?
so let me just answer since you
That's
asked
a
me.
CC right there, conscious chick.
So conscious shit.
I think they're fighting for control.
That's another C.
I don't think that it's a fight for her. I don't think it's even a fight against, you know, and unfortunately, which is why I wanted to be transparent. When we politicize things like this, you put control in the hands of people who you got to deal with, who may not have the same mindset
Wow.
that you have towards the issue. And so I was pleased as punch when she got hired. Not just because I'm a Black woman, but because I know her resume. I've seen her work. I've seen her heart.
You got receipts.
I see her, and guess what? She got receipts now too. She got receipts from those organizations she's invested in. She's got data to show that they have backed up their actions from their investment. We have examples here in Derry T. Baker with the TNL youth, a magnificent youth camp that he did this summer that catalytically transformed those kids into perform. We saw things that night that still give me chills.
But even after that night, I was able to read a post where Dr. D posted about one of the parents said that when their child went back to school, the level of confidence that they had. But I'll say this in regard to Siku. I mean, many of you already know, you know my story, formerly incarcerated. I've had a meeting with her with several of the formerly incarcerated guys who do work in our community.
Yep.
And what she has been doing that really touched my heart is that great, even though there's some barriers that we've got to overcome, I would love to see how we can provide funding to get you all in some of these places that I know the children can relate. So that says within itself, I'm not just here to be here, but I got a heart to hear what is being said and done.
But structured racism often requires that for you
Wow.
to receive funding, or for her to receive funding, people who have that capability, you got to have a certain form of LLC, a certain consultant, a certain license, a certain your paperwork is in order. And that also keeps people out. There's no access.
Yeah.
She can't give the money, though she would like to put the money there, but sometimes the form with which that organizational entity has to come to receive funding, we don't look like that on paper.
And I think, and my God, we've spent our time on this, but I think it's well needed.
I demand another hour.
So now the seat then got comfortable. It was the hot seat, now it's comfortable in it. You know,
God eventually joined me. Doc came in here, they were gonna jack me up. I was up against the wall. Now they done joined me. I want another house.
but you know the thing about it is, and I
That's the
think
power of common ground.
you said something that was so important, and I think that's what we've been talking about. A lot of the community leaders, a lot of the neighborhood leaders have been talking about. There are programs that people are running in our communities that don't have proper paperwork. But one of the things that we've been talking about is how do we get all these people together to let them know what is needed when you apply for certain things. But better than that, how do we put everybody under one umbrella and just let one organization apply and let one organization cut the pie and make sure everybody get to serve the population that they serve? How do we do that?
That's what the CSC was supposed to be, this umbrella.
Yeah.
But speaking of paperwork, there's a paperwork that I know I'm sloppy with my paperwork, but we got to make sure that next year our voting and paperwork and what are the precise standards of that paperwork needs to look like. We need Aunt Sue, Ramona Johnson, Auntie Jerry, Pookie, Ray, everybody paperwork needs to be tight and right. That's the one thing that if we can agree, all hearts, all churches, all denominations, all rats, we got to get tight and right for next year's election.
Wow. Well, listen, we got about 5 more minutes.
Oh, good.
And
That's my time.
and certainly I think Children's Service Council topic, because it's about community funding. I think that was important. How, and within the next 5 minutes, let's see, can we touch some of these things? Because I had someone to send me a text message when they found out that you were going to be on the show. They asked me to ask you, explain the issue with the airport gateway and why it's relevant to Black people in Tallahassee.
Florida State University was allocated $82 million in the blueprint money. That's a 1 cent sales tax. They came forward with an idea that was not, what was it, voted on in the original project list. It came in late, right?
Yeah.
And they're asking for $82 million. And the blueprint for FSU gave way and said, okay. Then they were going to do a piece of that road around the, by the golf course and come behind the neighborhood there, behind Mr. Beasley Mill and all like that. But Florida State has sort of abandoned interest in a new roadway. So Commissioner Caban now is asking and put forth a letter, a memorandum, suggesting that we take that $82 million that's been freed up and we beautify or enhance and enlarge Spring Hill Road and make it what it is, the gateway.
Original gateway.
Yeah, correct. The only gateway existing. When you come to Tallahassee, you come down Spring Hill Road.
Yeah.
And you come down Lake Bradford Road. Most people that leave the Florida State game, I don't say most, but now that Gaines Street has become a bike trail, folk go straight down Lake Bradford all the way down to Spring Hill Road, like on the airport, and they hang a left or right and go home. You need to widen it because there is no place that I've been in the world where going to the airport is a 2-lane. It doesn't happen. So with that $82 million, the question is, the county and city commissioners at Blueprint Board should keep that $82 million wherever, however we distribute it in the South Side and not let that money escape and go other places. But we need to keep the money south of Gaines Street. If we do that, you get a chance to put some more money on the fairground. If you do that, you get a chance to possibly look at widening Woodville Highway inside the Capitol Circle. If you do that, you possibly get a chance of looking at putting some money on Crawfordville Road, where it go down the Wakulla County line, where Wakulla County has now 4-lane up to Leon County. And years ago, when I argued for and received $28 million of federal funding from Congressman Boyd to widen Crawfordville Road, half the $28 million was taken, hijacked from me, and was put on Thomasville Road to 6-lane it to go to Georgia. And that happened at what was then called the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Agency. I've been around a long time.
Wow.
But we stop now down there at Wakulla Spring turnoff in the 4-lane narrows. That needs to be all the way down to the county line because 319 south of Crawfordville Road is an emergency evacuation route designated by the state. And when you're coming, all these people come up from the coast to come tell us come to work every day, trying to escape from a storm that we had last week. There's another one out there, I forgot the name of it, that didn't know the name. But it's an emergency evacuation. We treat it like that, 4-lane it. So that $82 million ought to be a great big old fist fight. And I hope it ain't gonna be a fist fight, gonna bring a plan forward. I know how to spend the money. I just gotta get everybody else to say, shh. This is what I want. I want 30 more million for the fairground because we need a major conference center, because we need a site for tourist sports dollars, tourism sports. We got a great football team in Tallahassee. Besides the one south of the railroad track, we got another pretty good football team just on the other side of the railroad track. Y'all understand the kind of economics. I mean, y'all know that hotel tickets after this week's games are going on up $300 a night, period. And when your team is that good and smoking like that, the economic ripple of it. And I know that's I'm going down another road, but we want that FSU relinquishing the Gateway project. That's $82 million, has to be debundled. And we're gonna be a fist fight because you can't put that kind of money in front of a politician. Somebody's gonna stop fighting.
Let me ask you, they have to be spent with already adopted referendum projects. Right.
And they have to be projects that, that are on the referendum, and only FSU could come in off outside that referendum. No, FAMU did it. How I know? Because when we did the stadium, nobody voted for that. That was not a voter approved project that we did in the stadium. But in the name of economic development, we said FAMU puts heads in beds. We know that Florida State, when we did the stadium, we voted for $20 million, $27 million on Florida State Stadium. But we know Florida State, we get that back in the same year. We get that money back. The people come in here, what they spend, what they buy, taxes that they pay, liquor that they drink, all of that ripple effect, it adds to the game.
So let me ask you this. I know 5 minutes. Is there a way to take some of the proceeds, and I know it's gonna be a dog fight, and I'm gonna start one right now, and put back into OEV what was given to FSU for the stadium? Could that money be redirected back into that? And I know in my mind I'm saying, based upon the referendum, probably not, but I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there. Could that restore that $28 million that went out of that economic development fund for stadium improvement investment to FSU? Could that money possibly be those bonded dollars be redirected into OEB for the purpose of further implementing your plans of inclusion and further activating and implementing local and minority inclusion opportunities in South Side?
That's a loaded question, and I honestly don't know. I really I don't know. I'm well satisfied that one of the things that Coach Prime said Saturday is I got 75% Black boys in that locker room, and I'm on the sideline. America don't want to see me. The question of these Black boys that play, and 80% of them over there is on scholarship is Black. And I have no problem, again, articulating my vote that in terms of showcasing their talent, these gladiators come out on Saturday from all over the world to be viewed. And I felt that I was investing in Black boys' opportunity to do something. I ain't seen no white boys out there but the kicker, punter, mainly. But when you say FSU, from the quarterback to running back to defensive back, all of them, that's Black investment to me. So that was Black investment in my mind. The kids on Basin Street were trying to come across Tennessee to come down Stadium Drive and play. But what bothers me is there's about 6% Black student population at Florida State now. I don't know why they can find everybody play football and keep the team 80-some, 90% Black on the football team, but in the halls of academia, it ain't that way. It's totally opposite, including the absence of cheerleaders on the sideline. It's just some things don't change, but that's outside of my jurisdiction as county commissioner. Just observation. We got 2 more minutes.
So listen, for those of you who are tuned in to the Greg James Community Show right here on Hallelujah 95.3, can you believe we did not take a commercial break? You know why? Because as Nelly said, it was getting hot in here. But
It was all good stuff.
It was all good stuff. In the last 2 minutes I've got, Christine and Commissioner Proctor, let's run through 2 things. Shooting in Tallahassee. What do we have to do to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community?
I don't know.
What's your thoughts? Conscious shit.
I only got 2 minutes. I need more than 2 minutes.
You got my 30 seconds.
Yep. Well, listen, people hate to hear this word thrown out there, but functional consolidation of law enforcement is still a term that's put up there. I think you got to talk about mindset. You got 2 different approaches to law enforcement, and we got to figure out which one works for this community.
Let's be honest, though. The law ain't caused nobody to told nobody to pull the trigger. The law is, how do you hold the law responsible for some of this? I mean, I don't want to go by case and step on and cause none, but some of this is inexplicable. And maybe some of this is demonic and spiritual. Some of this is folk who are not faith-based are being open and exposed to. Maybe some of this is the recurrence of violence. I think I saw a stat once to say by the time a kid is 18 years old, he's seen something like 18 or 19,000 murders, conversations of murder on TV and all over the television. Law enforcement, and of course, I'm not happy about some things law enforcement. There's a lot I'm not happy about. But I'm a county commissioner, and there's no need for me to bust any blood vessels in my brain over things I have no power over. And our Leon County Sheriff's Office, the sheriff has done a great, magnificent job with the homelessness issue, the care, the tenderness, their efforts to not arrest people who could be arrested, the data that they're keeping up. I don't want to make the sheriff look soft or anything, but the soft skilled people that they're putting on the street to meet the homeless, take inventory of their needs, working with them. And I know the sheriff don't look like he's a weakling, but he's doing very humanistic things, different approaches other than locking them up and throwing away the key. I'm well pleased with the sheriff. His effort to start the men and boys in response to his study. I mean, what sheriff does a study? I mean, some sheriffs can't even spell study and get something academically like that, then get it funded, and then get it supported the way he's done. I mean, our sheriff has gone way beyond his job description and trying to meet, but I just wish he would come out and recognize that we need to take 20 grams or less of marijuana and treat it as just a misdemeanor. And the sheriff won't weigh in, though I think he believes that, but he won't officially put his credit card on the line and join this commissioner in calling for, notwithstanding what Jack Campbell said, he's going to follow the law. But I want the sheriff to come out and say what he believes is in his heart. We need to, and I think it's going to be decriminalized next year. We get it on the ballot. That recreational marijuana is coming to Florida, and this is one of the great things that I think the Attorney General is trying to take off the November ballot for next year, because recreational marijuana is likely going to bring a lot of college students out to vote. And who they're going to be voting for in Florida? Will they be voting for Trump? Or who they're going to vote for? So there's discomfort, and the state is going to fight that ballot initiative as hard as they can. I want to give a shout out to Judge Marsh and his decision on the
Redistricting. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Judge Marsh stood up, was pants, represented his black role very well. And it seems like Congressman Al Lawson seat can be restored coming from the circuit court. We're now waiting for a decision from Judge Mark Walker, who's the chief judge at the United States District Court. And hopefully he too will rule consistent with Judge Marsh that the governor, that was overreach on the governor's part, and that is unconstitutional for a governor to draw lines. That's strictly, purely the role of the state legislature. And when the legislature drew the lines, the governor said, "Pooh, I don't want to deal with that." And he called them back to special. They'd done their homework. They drew the lines, and they maintained the status quo. They kept Congressional District 5, Lawson's district, from Quincy back over to Jacksonville. They kept Congresswoman Deming's district, which is Congressional District 10 in Orlando, the same. They didn't do no harm.
This is no other
governor who said, "Come back here and rubber stamp it." They did it. And I believe that Judge Mark Walker, pray God's empowerment of his spirit, his righteousness of his mind and soul. And if he comes across, we're going to see Congressman Al Lawson back in Congress.
All right. Hey, listen, it's been an amazing show. And I think one of the things that I want to pull away from your conversation just now on two things. One, on law enforcement in the community. I think, like you just said, law enforcement does not hold the guns of those individuals in our communities. So I want to take away that our community got to step up. I think you're saying, and it ain't law enforcement, it's what the community needs to do. And I think community now must become patrollers of the streets, the neighborhoods in which we live. And I think CSC, with increased funding, can fund some of our community programs to help ensure that. And then on the other hand, and we got 30 seconds left, Shouts out to all of those who are listening. Our great city commissioner, Diane Williams Cox, has just tuned in. It's a great show.
The South Side.
Yeah. Ruth Williams says, I love Bill Proctor because he's not afraid to speak up and address the issues. Absolutely, Ruth. He was a little bit nervous when he first walked in because we had to see. Yeah. Hey, listen, it's been an amazing show.
Whoa. No. You were out there monitoring what happened at the fairgrounds. What is you going to say about what needs to happen?
Oh, God.
Our Friday night games. Doc, can we get 45 more seconds, please?
45 more seconds. Well, listen, first of all, big shouts out to you. We talked about we were going to the game. We met. Some others met us out there. And basically, I feel and believe that, as we all said, we took the pulse of so many of the people who were in the stands. But there is more. And I think the real challenge is that African-American males, formerly incarcerated individuals, groups, fraternities, organizations need to have a presence as well. So I think we're going to figure out how. And, you know, one of the things that has been said to me all the time, that there's a liability.
This chick is frowning up and looking like she smells something. Hey,
I'm listening.
He said men coming together.
I'm listening. Don't be trying to put out, don't be putting that out there. I'm thinking deeply.
So I think that with the visibility of a group of men from TNL, a group of men from the 100 Black Men, a group of men from the different motorcycle clubs, a group of alphas and capitals and Qs, a group of formerly incarcerated men, I think that will give a greater presence to work hand in hand with law enforcement. And, you know, it's always been the question, oh, Pastor, there's a liability. But what if there's an organization that can be funded to ensure that they take on the liability for this? And it gives a sense of working to bridge the gap that we may see with law enforcement and the community.
I think there's any liability.
But that's what I've been being told.
I don't think there's a liability being taken on. I think the issue primarily is supervision. And, you know, at football games when I was growing up, there was a lot of supervision. I knew my daddy and my uncle was sitting in the stands across the way. I was cheering on the sideline. My brother was playing on the field. Listen, there was supervision there. We didn't have the foolishness, right? But when all the supervision that is there is just in uniform.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have anybody to intervene. You don't have anybody to watch and see kind of the stirrings of the thing. So when it manifests into foolishness, you ain't got nobody there to intervene. How many things have you intervened with to keep from going to the next level of enforcement?
I mean, look, wait, before you say that, and I know we got to go because my overtime, Dr. Holmes and Doc, they're going to give me an invoice. I know they is, but let's pray right now. Father, in the name of Jesus, we bind that invoice. Okay. So listen, we have intervened just this week. I mean, just the week of the storm, we intervened, and that intervention got me out my bed, and you was in
Cape Canaveral.
Got me out the bed to intervene to save someone from being incarcerated. Not only did we save someone from being incarcerated, but guess what? We didn't cost taxpayers.
They didn't have to pay for a bed, a meal, a piece of toilet paper, or nothing because we're able to intervene.
But what this brother is saying is the idea is after the fist fight broke out 2-3 weeks ago at the stadium was that some of the ideas were let's play the game at 4:00 in the afternoon. Let's play it on Saturday. Let's not play at all. Do we need to even have football? And that they know the radical departure from, but to normalize, he's suggesting that we put people of character, quality, and quantity there to say to the kids, this ain't gonna happen. Just like with your uncle, your father, your brother, we're not gonna go down. And those men are there in person to say, ain't nothing gonna go down here.
And they're dressed alike. They're uniform. And not only that, but now they are having a stronger stake in the community because I say, hey, come on, T-Bone. Hey, Jack, come on, man. Hey, come on, Diddy boy. Listen, man, I want y'all to meet with one of our commissioners. I want you to meet with our city police officer, our sheriff, our commissioner. They want to talk to you about how valuable you are to being present. Anyway.
Well, I want to say one thing now. If you're going to put everybody in uniform, I didn't ever say nothing about this but man, the way little sisters be coming to the game dressed, They're like, do they mama see what they have?
Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
Hey,
People
listen.
monitor what we sing. I'm just saying, Doc, I'm just saying, I don't know how they get out the house like that, bro.
Hey, listen, it's been an amazing show.
Yeah.
Hey,
While I'm behind. Stop while I'm behind.
Well, it's a conversation, but
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
another
that's it.
5 minutes.
but here's the thing about it. We gotta go. But would you believe that perhaps they're leaving the house because mom is not there, dad is absent? Could it be that they're raising their own selves? So we'll stick a pin in that.
Call your sister talk about that. Call your chick got
So baby,
Hey, listen.
scored in football
we
game.
do. Hold it. No, for real though, because it's a safety issue. Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, it's been an amazing show right here on the Great James Community Show. And thank you, Commissioner Bill Proctor, for sharing with us today. And once again, Conscious Shake, it's been amazing. Another show in the books. What would you say to our listeners as we get ready to depart?
Keep listening.
Just keep listening, because guess what? It's going to keep getting harder and harder and harder. Hey, once again, thank you so much. All right, God bless you and love you all. And we will see you next Wednesday for the Great James Community Show. Right, man.
It's cold out there in that football game.
Sorry.
Carolyn, amazing show.
Sorry.
Hey, listen, thank you all so much for tuning in. I pray that this show is something that you enjoy.
But if the commissioner want to continue to talk about the dress code,
I'm